All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got a brand new chapter of My Hero Academia today. And then afterwards, we are going on break, which means that the only chapter we're getting next week will be Jujutsu Kaisen, because One Piece is still on break until July 17th. So let's go ahead and get the formalities out of the way, shall we? Yo, peoples! Kyushu92 here, and welcome back to yet another live reaction to My Hero Academia. In the last chapter we got, it pretty much showed everyone having to deal with the sad man's death parade of Himiko Toga as she's just running rampant throughout the mountains, where, if not for a certain number of heroes, Himiko Toga threatens to swallow up everything in her wake in her mad crazed state that she's in, using Twice's quirk to create these endless amount of clones. And while that's going on, Uraraka is still trying to contend with Himiko Toga, and Toga just continues to descend further and further into madness. So now, we get to see what happens in the newest chapter. Chapter 392, Villain Name. And then it cuts to Himiko Toga, who apparently has Asui Su strung up and bound up by all these Twice clones as Himiko, the real Himiko, is threatening to stab her, and it starts with her screaming,
"You don't know the first thing about me!"
And then it cuts to Aravati, who's trying to get close to Toga because she's threatening to stab Tsuyu.
"Oh no, Froppy!"
After getting hurt back on Okoto Island, I couldn't evade the mob.
And then it cuts to Toga.
"Because you've never wanted for anything! Because you've always followed their rules! Because you were born into a perfectly livable life!"
And it cuts to Himiko Toga as it looks like she's about to stab Froppy. And then Uraraka's looking on, and then we cut to a flashback and we cut to a house. And it's Himiko Toga when she's a child. And it cuts to two adults. I think it's her mother and father, as the father goes, and they're all in shadow, so we don't see the mom and dad's face. "She killed that sparrow, sucked its blood, and now she's grinning about it."
"No! Nuh-uh! The birdie just fell into the yard!"
And it cuts to us, and it's the very young child Himiko Toga when she's like a child, and she's crying. But it also shows a sparrow just, kind of drained of blood and just sitting there dead. Then it cuts to some shadowy lady who goes,
"Let's get you all reformed, nice and normal." Just a moment. I'll be right there. Yes, she'll be just fine. Yes, well, this sort of deviant behavior is common in children with powerful quirks. Yes, it happens all the time in modern society. We'll be sure to iron it all out.
So they took her to like a place where she can get like reformed. And it cuts to these two individuals walking, and she's in a park and she's looking. And it cuts to a man and his dog.
"Stop that! What on earth are you doing?"
"Himiko's face is scary!"
"You little freak! Just act normal!" "No, there's just no getting through to that girl." And it's Himiko looking at all these people walking through a park full of people. And she's like sucking on her finger, but it's also looking like it's bleeding as well. And then it cuts to people still, echoing in the background. "Himiko! They told me you drank your friend's blood!"
"Nuh-uh, my friend got hurt, so I was just sucking the ouchie."
"That's not normal! Don't you want to behave properly?"
"Mommy? Daddy? I just don't get it. Not at all. Does everyone else have just to fight the urge to be the way they want to be? Why does no one else suck blood like me?"
And it cuts to the mom and dad, so it was the mom and dad earlier who cannot comprehend why Himiko is acting this way. Because it shows her a little bit older, and it shows her kind of her hand covered in blood just a little bit from her friend, apparently. "Ah! She just came out wrong. She's rotten to the core. We gave birth to something inhuman." So that's Himiko Toga at her childhood, and now her parents were trying to deal with her. And then it cuts to another individual who's speaking to her. And this is the news lady. This is the lady that was part of the Para-Liberation Army that was capable of... I forget what her quirk was. She had like blue skin, and she's the one that Himiko Toga, using Uraraka's quirk, killed by throwing her in the air and then slamming her down. That's the one that Himiko killed, but, you know, like a ghost of hers just pops up next to Himiko going,
"So, you pushed it all down, suppressed yourself and created a mask to become someone else entirely."
And then it cuts to the real Himiko Toga being pulled away from Froppy before she could do any major damage. Now, mind you, Froppy still gets hit. She still gets hit a little bit because it shows the swipe and it shows a little blood shoot off of Froppy, but she gets pulled by Uraraka. And then it cuts to Himiko. It cuts to Himiko screaming, "Uraraka!" And then it cuts to Froppy falling, and then we got Jiro coming in order to grab her.
"I got you, Tsuyu!"
And then that looks like Kamui Woods.
Get
"Watch out! That's not her!" And it shows that the Froppy that's falling towards Jiro is not the real Froppy. As Jiro goes, "Huh?" And then this fake Froppy opens its mouth real wide and looks like real crazed and crazy because Kamui Woods has the real Tsuyu. But Kamui Woods grabs Jiro and destroys the clone, going, "It's Toga!"
All heroes must die!
As it cuts to a bunch of clones that look like basically everyone. A bunch of clones that look like Tsuyu, a couple clones that look like Twice, obviously. One that looks like Toga, and another one that kind of looks like Jiro a little bit. "Some of her doubles must have swallowed sprays of blood. Sprayed drops of blood.
She even got me
To take on this horde. No, even our full team up wasn't enough. Now that she's diverting and deceiving us, we've got no..." And then it just shows the Twice clones just cascading everywhere. It's it's complete and utter chaos. "Yo, Snow, good to see you. Sounds like that's where her rebelliousness started. They tried to change her before understanding her." Yeah. They didn't even try to understand it. They didn't even try to find out the real core of the problem with Himiko. But all these Twices, like the whole area is just up in chaos, and like the endless clones that just keep showing up. "We've got no way to stop her." And then it cuts to Hawks back then, who goes, "Kill them right now." And then it cuts to everyone being swept up by these Twice clones.
All must die!
And then it cuts to Tsuyu screaming,
Himiko Toga, listen! I once thought that following the rules is what made someone a hero, and that breaking them made you a villain. But you know what, Himiko Toga? Right now, my friend is setting the rules and everything else aside to try and have an honest conversation with you. Killing us all is one thing, beating you is another. But what she's trying is a tougher path than any of that. Come on. Ochako making this effort. It might be coming later than you hoped, but please listen to what she's saying.
And then it cuts to Himiko Toga stabbing Uraraka, just flat out stabbing her. This is Toga, and she's in the air with Uraraka, and she stabs her in the abdomen.
We're just built different. You people go on and on about happy, blessed lives, but I don't get to feel the look of that. Your rules, tell you to pity me, but don't you dare!
And it shows Uraraka as she's bleeding after getting stabbed. And then it cuts to Twice, who's going, "Say, Toga, don't you want a villain name of your own?" Wow. Okay. That's the end of the chapter, and we're going on break. We're going on a break after seeing Uraraka get stabbed. Tease. We're going on break after seeing one of the best girls in the series get stabbed. Okay. So, we got a little bit of history of Himiko Toga. Everyone is trying to deal with her, but we see her past that even as a young child, mentally, she was in a whole nother place. This wasn't something when she was in school. This was something when she was a child that she was driven to do. That whole mental space that she has right now, that was something that she had when she was just a child, and her parents tried to drive it out of her. Wow, I don't believe she's dead, but wow. Yeah, I don't believe she's dead either, because it's too soon to say. Like, how many times have we seen people suffer incredibly debilitating attacks in this series and they come out fine, or at least, alive? So, she may have gotten Uraraka here and stabbed her, but this is, Uraraka's not done, though. Because there's no way you're gonna get Toga to just scream all this nonsense out, and then she just takes out Uraraka. No way. There's no way. Uraraka's gonna be okay. She's gonna survive, and, well, I can't say what's going to happen, but she's gonna survive. I'm not gonna get behind, I'm not gonna say, oh no, she's dead because she got stabbed in the chest. How many times have we seen people get skewered and stabbed multiple times and they're still fine? We've seen it a lot in this series. But we really see that Himiko Toga was not all there, even as a child, and that persisted throughout her entire life. And despite the best efforts of her parents to try and get her on the right path, or get her in the mindset of, just act normal, or just be like this, feel like Uravity is going to awaken another portion of her power. I mean, we did see that when a person is on their deathbed or when they're in an incredibly tense, stressful situation, that's when quirks start to evolve. That's when they start to see a new resurgence in power. Because a good example was Dabi. Right when he was on his deathbed, as he was trying to take out everybody, he started to awaken the ice quirk that Endeavor always wanted when he was born. But that was on his deathbed. So who knows what'll happen to Uravity's quirk? Because, as far as I know, she hasn't fully evolved it. Meanwhile, Deku has no clue that there is a low-key chick fight happening over him. That's kind of where a lot of this, in the direction, it kind of went in that direction, but I feel like Himiko Toga gave up on being interested in Midoriya a while back. And now she just wants to, just the infatuation that she has, like the mentally unstable infatuation that she has for the people she sided with, such as Twice, and really Twice and Dabi. That's what's kept her going. Not the whole Midoriya thing, because she's dropped that. But her love for the people that she sided with, like on the villain side, that's what's kept her going all this time. And she's just become more and more mentally unstable. Even more so after finding out that Twice was killed by heroes, no less. And she's been holding it over them ever since, without a shred of trying to understand why. All she sees is this person killed my friend, so I need to kill all of them. And she's been on that tangent from the longest. And the whole conversation she had with Dabi before Dabi went off and did his thing, it pretty much just spurned that feelings even more. So now we got a Himiko Toga who's just completely gone berserk, not even trying to listen to anyone, not even trying to understand anything. All she wants is for all heroes to die. for everything that she's lost. And she still can't contend with the fact that she can't turn into the people that she says she loves the most. So that's another side of mental instability that just isn't lining up for her. And despite the best efforts of Tsuyu and Uraraka trying to talk her down, or at least try to talk to her on a basic level, Himiko is no longer in a headspace where she's willing to listen to anyone but herself right now. As we see in her flashback, growing up, she's always been seen as odd, even by her own parents, to the point where they literally could not mentally understand what was wrong with their daughter. Even try to take her to like a reform school or a rehabilitation center. Like, let's get her straightened out. Let's get her all sorted out. And we'll make sure we iron out all these kinks because we tend to see these things in children with very powerful quirks. So even at a young age, Toga was not all there, like I said near the beginning. So she's had to deal with that her entire life, and not understand why what she saw as normal wasn't considered normal by everyone else. And that sort of mental instability stayed with her throughout the entirety of her life, and now that mental instability has reached such a boiling point that she is devoid of all reasoning, and all she can think of right now is killing all the heroes. Also, good to see you, Midoriya and Cides. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Also, hi, Hitachi. Good to see you too. But that's where we're at right now. She literally checked out when she realized she wasn't accepted by who she loved. Yeah. Like all the moments, like let's do a little bit of a dive. Let's do a little bit of a dive into the history of Himiko Toga so we can fully understand just what type of an individual we are dealing with right now. So if we go to her personality, that'll basically tell us everything that we need to know. I noticed that My Hero Academia's wiki tends to update a lot more than Jujutsu Kaisen's, but I'll check on that later. So, here's the thing. It says right here, Himiko is a very cheerful girl, to the point of smiling even after having presumably killed someone, displaying sadistic tendencies. This continues even when danger is imminent, as shown when Tomura Shigaraki was about to attack her, but it tends to stop when she is bored or annoyed. Himiko is frequently seen blushing, seemingly out of excitement rather than embarrassment, giving her a permanent look of what appears to be love sickness on her face. However, she has shown that she can easily be embarrassed, such as when she thinks people are coming on to her, or when she is naked when copying clothes of people that she has transformed into. Himiko is obviously mentally unstable and has a very twisted perception of love and friendship. This is evident when, despite her attempting to kill Ochako Uraraka and Tsuyu Asui, she tries to befriend the two girls as they fight, affectionately calling Tsuyu by her first name and describing the former as lovely. When talking to Ochako, she says, "It's only natural to want to be like the one you love," and for Himiko, this is taken to the point of literally becoming that person. She further explains and compares that like how normal people kiss the people they love as normal, she sucks the blood of the people she loves as this is her normal. I told you, what she sees as normal is not normal to everyone else, and she doesn't understand why it's not normal to everyone else. Further showing her twisted understanding of love, she uses this to justify her carving up and butchering guys who are tattered and reeking of blood as they fit the description of her ideal lover. Additionally, although it may seem so, Himiko's interest isn't just superficial, as her questioning Izuku Midoriya about what his values and beliefs imply show that, although twisted, she does indeed want to know more about the person she loves. During later confrontation with Izuku in the final war, it's shown that despite the twisted way in which he acts when infatuated, her affection for Izuku is absolutely genuine and without any inherent malevolence, as Izuku's danger sense did not detect Himiko even when she runs at him with a knife. The love she feels seems to be no different from what normal people feel, but she simply does not know how to express it in a normal manner due to her warped mental state, which is the reasoning behind her constantly seeking battle with and the blood of those she loves in order to become closer to them. So that's basically her mental state. Toga's situation gives big LGBT vibes, to be honest. Yeah, to a degree. See, hey, Michael, what's going on? It's a good thing we stuck with the fight. Optimus Prime poster, cool. How was that Optimus Prime? The Rise of Beasts, I actually enjoyed it. It was quite fun. Let's continue with the personality so we can fully understand her. Himiko is quite courageous, or at least very confident when using her quirk, even impersonating an aspiring hero and taking part in an exam that gathered thousands of heroes, students, and multiple pro heroes. She also shown to have a comedic and childlike demeanor. Hold on. She has shown a comedic and childlike demeanor when faced with different situations, such as when she was with Twice or when she attempted to insult Mimic. Like most of her allies, Himiko has stated that she finds life to be difficult for the current world and wants to make it an easier place to live in. She looks up to Stain and sees him as her role model, declaring a desire to kill and become him, possibly a reference to her quirk. In stark contrast to her maniacal nature, Himiko has shown a very supportive side as she's comforted a distraught Twice, knowing he feels the most responsible for causing Magne's death, and covering a part of his ripped mask to prevent him from splitting. By extension, she is shown to care greatly about her comrades, and was enraged enough by Magne's death that she wanted to kill Overhaul and his men as payback. What you like to eat and so forth? Yeah, look. That's that sort of thing that Himiko would do. Like, yeah, stuff like that would be like a whole bunch of questions. I don't know if you're asking me that though, but that's how Himiko would act. So, Himiko is also prone to mood swings. When she finds a target of affection, mainly Izuku, she is loud and cheerful. However, when someone gets in between her and her target of her affection, she shows a very cold, angered, and annoyed expression, instantly switching priorities to kill whoever the nuisance is. In the past, Himiko was noted by her family and former classmates to be a cheerful, reasonable, well-mannered girl whose subsequent turn to a life of crime surprised everyone who knew her. However, her own recollections imply that this was merely an act she put on to try and fit in with what society deemed normal. She believes the way she acts presently is her own normal and that she shouldn't be forced to conceal it. And then Redestro theorizes that Himiko's twisted personality came off as a result of her quirk being blood-related, thus prompting a natural inclination towards it, and by proxy, her non-normal behavior, which was later emphasized due to societal norms, as well as her parents being startled and disturbed by her behavior and thus deeming it as unacceptable. It is heavily suggested that being forced to repress these feelings from a young age is what led to her current madness and instability, as she pointed out that keeping her feelings under wraps only caused them to grow internally. This is shown when she eventually succumbed to her quirk's influence and ended up attacking another student, Saito, who was bloodied and bruised from a fight. She also believed that what she felt towards him was a crush, which explains how her warped feelings of affection came to be. So literally, her quirk... Hey, oh, you was being funny because I had a phone call. Okay. So, what this pretty much explains is that some quirks are capable of affecting you mentally. The bloodlust of her blood-related quirk pretty much defined her entire personality because she gave herself over to it. And that's the reason why she is right now. Sense, reasoning, logic, all of that just went out the window as soon as she allowed herself to be taken over by the feelings and urges of her own blood-related quirk. So I didn't know that this was actually possible for a quirk to actually take over the mind of its individual and influence them based on its type. So that didn't occur to me. Now, mind you, this is different from how you think of how Nomus act when they have multiple quirks within them and they're all devoid of reasoning and everything else, but they are just like, they're built that way on purpose. But Himiko Toga, apparently, she was fine at first, but then as she got older and she was told to act more normal, and as a child, she acted on her urges, her quirk urges as a child. And that was seen as like adverse. That was seen as like an abomination, as wrong as a child. So she had to internalize it. But in the process of doing so, it got to a point where it was just building up inside of her, to a point where when she let it go, it just took her over, and it has not let her go since. And that's the reason why she is the way she is right now. All those feelings of having to try and live like a normal person and suppressing this bloodlusted quirk, this quirk bloodlust, was too much for her to, keep under wraps. And she felt more normal just doing everything that her quirk, I guess, influenced her to do. And that's the way she is that's the reason why she's the way she is right now. So it makes you wonder if this is something that's possible from a blood-related quirk. Like, how many other quirks are out there that is influencing people mentally? Like, I know to a degree, All for One is kind of driven by this sort of quirk-related hunger, if you will. Like, for a hunger for more power. I was like, I need to have this quirk. I gotta have this quirk. This is one of the mental driving forces of him as a whole. Because even Shigaraki had that same type of drive in him as well. So it's not just All for One's personality that is influencing him that way, but just the sheer hunger that one feels from having the All for One quirk within them. That's how it sort of functions to a degree. Himiko Toga's quirk works the same way. It gives you that hunger for blood to a degree, to the point where you can't. Well, I mean, clearly it says like she couldn't even control herself. Eventually succumbed to her quirk's influence and ended up attacking another student. Despite her psychotic personality and violent habits, it appears that Himiko does possess some standards, as she was greatly shocked and upset when Twice was killed during the Paranormal Liberation War. Following her murderous rampage to avenge her comrade and dear friend, she questioned if the heroes didn't view Twice as a person, if they are meant to save people. And yeah, Himiko also appears curious and even somewhat fearful as to what would happen to her if she was caught, and went to Aravati to inquire about this. Although the latter's answer of apprehending the young villainess didn't answer this much, Himiko seems to wonder if the heroes plan to kill her like they did with Twice. Despite boasting of never coming close to being caught, she is shown to fear being captured or killed, as seen when she begged Eel Boy to let her go while the pro-hero was apprehending her. As well as when she screamed in terror upon nearly being killed by Curious. So right here, during her time with the League, Himiko is shown to have adopted Tomura's philosophy, that she should destroy whatever she despises. This is further demonstrated when she killed Curious and her squad, choosing to do this rather than leave them for Gigantomachia. During the final war, while facing off against Deku and Uravati, Himiko demonstrates how much she relates to Tomura's ideals, saying that society has done nothing but reject her for how she is, and that she has a right to reject them. This shows just how much she loathes the hero of society, with her believing that they only value those who are important to them, while people like her and Twice are swept away and left to struggle and suffer by themselves. By the height of the final war, Himiko fully embraces her villainy as she takes on Twice's appearance and uses his quirk, telling her clones to massacre every hero in sight. Even so, she expresses regret that she couldn't talk to Ochako about love, but all the same, she's still insane. Wonder if she hears the voices of the people she turns into, kind of like a schizophrenia side effect. I wouldn't say it's going to be on the same degree as All for One hearing the vestiges of people's quirks he's stolen, that he suffers through, but I wouldn't be surprised if, like, she does, like you say, Snow, suffer from schizophrenic breaks where the people's blood she ingests, she pictures them. I would not be surprised if that's something that happens, because she's psychotic. Let's just call it what it is. She's completely psychotic. She has let go of all human reasoning, and all she wants to do is just kill all heroes. That's literally the only thing that's on her mind. She doesn't care about society and their rules. She doesn't care about anything else except killing all heroes and destroying everything that she despises, thanks to Shigaraki telling her that that's what she should do. So we're at a moment right now where we're dealing with an incredibly psychotic individual who has the ability to not only clone herself, but also make clones of other people's, because apparently with so much spray of blood happening all over the battlefield, she's gained access to Jiro, and she's gained access to Tsuyu as well. So now we got clones of Tsuyu and Jiro out there right now. The quirk urge thing is interesting because some of it is pretty straightforward like Toga, but others feel like the quirk could affect them in a variety of ways. Like, for example, Aoyama's laser quirk seems to encourage his sparkliness, but you could just as easily assume that as a laser quirk could cause someone to be super serious and laser focused. There's more examples, but you can't think of them. Yeah, I get it. Like, when you get Kirishima and you got his quirk, he's loud and boisterous, and he's got like this real cheerful but also tough guy, also a cheerful tough guy type of disposition. And his quirk deals with him being just straight up tough. So he's just like this. What's the best way to describe it? He's a loud, tough individual, but also kind of cheery as well. So he's like a walking, smiling tank. That's basically Kirishima. And then you have people like Bakugo, whose personality is just like their quirk. Explosive, loud, boisterous, and unrelenting of who gets caught up in his wake. Just like an explosion. So it tends to be a mix. It tends to differ from person to person. Like Jiro, she has this quirk that allows her to amplify sound or listen to sound basically with her earphone jacks, but she's not the type of individual to be overly loud or anything. So sometimes you get people who are just like their quirks personality-wise, and sometimes you get people who are the opposite of their quirks personality-wise. So there's a lot of good examples. I may have to go through a couple more characters to see if there's any other individuals whose personality lines up with their types of quirks. Love the way the combo of Toga and Twice's quirks mix on the blood-soaked battlefield to create a landmine of infinite imposters. It makes everything much more dangerous and scary. Exactly. Because now that Toga has Jiro's quirk, I mean, we almost saw Jiro get caught up with a fake Tsuyu that launched at her, because she was all like, I got you, Tsuyu, and it turned out to be like a Twice clone that was about to like jump on her and try and bite her, because the mouth was all wide like it was about to bite into Jiro. But thankfully Kamui Woods was able to tell the difference because he had the real Tsuyu in his arms. So with all this blood that's happening, well, not all this blood, but everything that's happening right now, and all this blood that's meeting up on the battlefield, Toga is able to gain access to even more people to replicate with, and that's just going to cause the chaos and confusion and disarray to increase even more. So not only are we dealing with a sad man's death parade that is just nothing but Twice clones, but with all this blood access that Toga has on the battlefield right now, of people getting hurt all over, she's going to be able to create clones of anyone else who's bleeding out there, or anyone else's blood she gets access to, thus causing the amount of making it even trickier to find out which one's the real Toga, because now she's going to be making clones of everyone else right now if she gets access to more blood. And last we end this chapter on is her stabbing Uravity directly in the chest, whether to get her blood to get access to her quirk or to make herself look like her. It's just utter chaos. This is by far the most chaotic thing that's happening right now in this entire war. Like, we're already done with Dabi. He's already got beaten by his brother. All for One versus All Might, we have yet to get back to that. Shigaraki versus Midoriya, we have yet to get back to that. The current state of Bakugo, we have yet to get back to that. And what Edge Shot is doing in order to bring him back. There's a lot of things that we still need to tie up before this entire war is over. But this whole Himiko Toga thing, and it threatens to swallow up not just the heroes, but everyone else across the country in her wake, that's still a majorly pressing matter. Because if we take care of Himiko Toga, the only thing that we need to worry about is All for One and Shigaraki. Out of everyone in the entire League of Villains, Himiko Toga has lasted the longest. Because we still don't know where Kurogiri is. Because he teleported away along with Aizawa and Present Mike, so they just teleported someplace else. And it's like, there's so many things happening right now in this war. I feel like her turning into so many people, it would mentally break her, causing her to possibly awaken in a new state. I mean, she's already mentally unstable as it is. I can't imagine her mind would be able to take on that much more. Or it could cause something new to awaken in her and make her even more dangerous. But we're going to have to wait for a whole week before we can find out where things go from here after seeing Uraraka getting stabbed in the stomach. This is a good chapter, but things are far more chaotic than they've ever been, especially when we're focusing on Himiko Toga, who's pretty much been the most insane member to join the villains out of everyone. Really, she plays it off like a cutesy little valley girl sometimes, but she really is one of the most insane and unhinged of everyone in that group. Feel so bad for Toga. She's been hurt so much and reached out to so many people and had her heart broken. Now Uraraka and Tsuyu are trying to genuinely help her, but she's been hurt too much. She may be past the point of no return, but I still hope she gets a happy ending because she deserves love and care. In the meantime, be on the look. Yeah, in the meantime, be on the lookout. It's like it's saddening to see that a lot of things that. In the meantime, be on the lookout. My Hero prequel anime was recently announced. Really? A prequel anime? Interesting. But to close this out, I feel like it really does speak about how shoddy and just how fake the society of My Hero Academia actually is in universe, where people who should be going out of their way to make sure that other people are okay and to avoid them suffering a fate of being turned into villains, a lot of these people were ostracized. A lot of people were ostracized. A lot of these villains that have given us the most trouble in this final war were all ostracized for some reason. Shigaraki was ostracized because because people ignored him and thought like, maybe a hero will come along, and didn't take the time to see if he was okay. That was Shigaraki as a kid, and the one person to pick him up was All For One and groom him to be his next vessel later on. Then we have Toya, who was groomed to try and be the next successor to take down All Might at a young age, and when it turned out at the time he didn't have an ice quirk within him, he was literally tossed aside because when Shoto showed up, it's like all attention went to Shoto, and then Toya didn't matter anymore. And then Toya, in his frustration, literally broke and thought it'd be better if he tried and killed Shoto at a young age. And then in the process of his quirk erupting from him when he went into the forest, which caused like a ginormous fire to happen, he pretty much burned himself to the point where he was unrecognizable. All For One found him and then regrafted skin back to his body, and then Toya's mind has snapped ever since. Then you got Himiko Toga. We know her story. Young age, can't resist the urges of her own quirk, basically seen as a freak by everyone, including her own parents, no one giving her the time and patience to make sure that she's okay, or even try and figure out how are we going to deal with your urges so that you don't harm anyone else and you can behave like a normal person in society. We'll be patient with you, we'll take as long as it takes in order for you to be able to be around people and not have your quirk take you over. A lot of these people who joined the villains were all ostracized for some reason that could have been avoided if people took the time to understand them and be patient with them with love and care. All of this could have been avoided if there were people out there who were not selfish and thought, you're not normal to me. You're making us look bad. I don't want to deal with you. Let someone else deal with it. You're a failure. Let me focus on someone else. All it would have took to avoid a lot of these major moments that have happened in this series was someone going beyond themselves to listen and to pay attention and to care for these individuals. But no, the society of My Hero thinks that, well, if it doesn't have anything to do with me, I'm not going to worry about it. Let a hero worry about it. It's got nothing to do with me. And it's like back when Uraraka was talking to all the citizens who only cared about themselves and didn't care about Midoriya getting any rest, even though he was fighting nonstop day in and day out. All they saw was like their own safety. They didn't think about like the safety of the individuals who's actually trying to fight to keep them safe. It just shows you just how far gone this society is in terms of the belief of helping one's fellow man or the like. But this is what happens. These villains are here because the society is messed up. This whole ideal of only care about myself, let someone else deal with it. That's literally a big running theme that happens in this story. And that's why I like to do deep dives with this. Because when it comes to series, I like to do mental deep dives and psychological deep dives when it comes to this sort of thing. Because this series really brings it out of me when I analyze things and people's behaviors and everything like that. I absolutely love that. Maybe I should have been a psychiatrist. Maybe. Nope, I don't want to deal with that. Nope. Take that back. Started out the series hating being scared of Toga, so the fact that you can care so strongly about her now speaks volumes to Horikoshi's ability as a writer. See, here's the thing. If you can't write, you will come up with dumb contrivances that don't make sense for your character. But when you are able to write, you are able to write a character that may seem twisted and far gone and just absolutely villainous that you don't mind seeing locked up the very first chapter. It takes a very skilled writer to take a character like that, give them or detective. I like Detective Q. But it takes a very skilled writer for you to write these characters, because every single one of these villains that we've come across had a very, I wouldn't say very good reason, but had a reason for doing what they do, and then Horikoshi gave us that exposition. It wasn't long and drawn out, but it gave us what we needed to understand these villains, who we would normally on a regular basis wouldn't be opposed to seeing getting beat up just by the heroes, and then we all laugh it off, and then it's the end, and then the credits roll, and that's the end of the Saturday morning cartoon. No, it takes a very skilled writer to make people. It takes a very skilled writer to make people we would root to be beaten, make us actually feel sorry for them, make us actually feel emotions other than joy whenever they're beaten. It takes a very skilled writer to make you sympathetic to the villains who are out there trying to kill people. It takes a very skilled writer to do that. Don't this almost sound like One Punch 2? Villains were good until ostracized by the masses to think otherwise. See, here's the thing. The difference between the villains of One Punch and the villains of My Hero Academia is a lot of One Punch villains are villains for very superficial reasons. I'm a villain because I couldn't get out of my chicken suit, and then I just turned into a monster. So now I'm going to be a monster to fight other heroes. So a lot of villains, the difference between One Punch and My Hero is that you can be sympathetic for literally almost all villains for My Hero. Almost all of them. Almost. At least the more significant ones. Not like the ones from Tartarus. Not like the ones that work for All For One. You can be almost sympathetic for almost all of them. Whereas One Punch Man, you got maybe one or two. You feel more things about the heroes than you do the villains. Like, there's a villain of the week every single time One Punch Man shows up. So, it's you don't get too much time with some of them. Some of them show up and try to lead better lives, like Phoenix Man, who, after finding Child Emperor, is out there just helping out kids now. That's like, I wouldn't say he's completely reformed, but he's no longer a threat to anyone. But My Hero has a ton of villains out there where you can actually look at their life story and feel bad for them. Twice. Himiko Toga, Toya, even Shigaraki himself, and he's out there being basically like an evolved being with not just quirks, but superhuman abilities, and he's just out there now. Even you can feel sorry for him because of the way he was brought up. MHA is literally about what could happen when mental health is not taken care of and goes unchecked. Yes. It's actually, that's one way to look at it. Because a lot of these people are mentally unsound. and no one took the time to make sure that they were okay so that they could be mentally sound. Because a lot of their driving forces are based off of their fractured mental state. Toya, with his fractured mental state, thinking that the only thing that matters is that I bring my father down before I kill him and his son, before I kill him and my younger brother. That will give me peace, and then I'll just set fire to everything else. Himiko Toga, fractured mental state because no one will accept her for who she is. And she doesn't understand that what she does isn't normal, but she sees it as normal because no one has tried to take the time to understand her and try and tell her that it's actually wrong. Shigaraki, not having anyone to literally look up to, being told that heroes are great, but being scolded by a father who tells you that heroes are utter trash just because his feelings was hurt because mama chose not to be around him because she was too busy being a hero and fighting a villain who's bent on world domination. So he took out his frustrations of his own mother on his own son, and that led to his son's mental instability to the point where Shigaraki at a young age was elated to kill his dad. And the fact that his quirk awakened and he accidentally killed pretty much all of his own family members, his dog, his younger sister, his grandparents, and his mother. And then lastly, his father in the place where they stayed. That just seeing his father just drove him to utter madness. So all of this could have been avoided if we had people to check on these individuals and checked on them to make sure that their minds were still right. This really is, the villains of this story are really a tale of what happens when mental health goes unchecked. So that actually is a very good point, Snow. It really is. But I'm done. I spent a lot more on this than I originally thought I was going to. But this is what happens when we start talking. This is what happens when we start talking about My Hero Academia. There's so much we can deep dive for this series, and that's why I love it. But we're going on break. We're not getting a chapter next week. The only chapter we're getting next week is one for Jujutsu Kaisen, because One Piece is still on break until July 17th. And yeah, that's all that we got until we get chapters back. So all the same, hope Horikoshi's doing good. Hope Akege's doing good for Jujutsu, and I hope Oda's doing good for One Piece, especially since he's dealing with his surgery and everything. Hope the recovery's phenomenal so we can get back to all of my favorite series. But thank you, everyone. This was actually a really good read. This was actually a really good read and great topics of conversation for us to talk about. 'Tis the power of MHA. Love this show. I love it too. I still haven't seen the latest season. That's me. I gotta square that up because I've been so busy reading One Piece, playing Final Fantasy 16, and then planning out newer things that I want to do for the channel in the upcoming months, especially as I approach my 1-year anniversary of going full time with this channel. There's just so much to do. But to everyone, thank you for taking the time to, watch me react to today's chapter. Really do hope you all enjoyed. Because, this is my job. And I want to say I thank you for all the support you show me. That helps this channel continue to go on. It really does mean the world to me. But to everyone, perfect timing. Hey sis, give me a sec. To everyone here, yeah, that was my sister chiming in. But to everyone here, this is an immense honor and privilege to do what I do. All I can say to everyone is that hope you all enjoyed. Can't wait to see you all in my next video. And if you enjoyed what you saw here today, then like, subscribe, and share the stream with everyone you know, because the more the merrier. Because I am always looking forward to entertaining you. So have a fantastic day. And once again, as always, later peoples.